So, to Joseph Kotrie Monson, I love talking to him because not only is he a brilliant, excellent broadcaster, but he's also a brilliant, excellent lawyer and joins me down very, very dapper indeed. Would you turn up? I mean, later on in the programme, I'm going to be doing this whole thing. One of the unions says that if it hits 25 degrees centigrade, people should be able to just not go to work. Now, for those people not actually watching TalkTV, you are missing out on the sight of Joseph. He's always very dapper, and he's got his suit jacket and tie and his red kerchief. So do you dress smartly whatever the weather? Would you go into, I would guess as a lawyer, you can't go in T-shirts, can you?
Trisha, don't make me declare my love live on air, but a date with Trisha in my book is a special occasion, all right? So I, to be honest, after all the nice things you've just said about me, I'm not sure if I can give you any intelligible answers whatsoever.
Oh, no, let's wreck that bit. Well, talking about unintelligible stuff, to Boris Johnson. I wanted to talk to you about it from a legal point of view. And I always like asking you, and this is where you get the real nuggets of information. If he was a client of yours, I mean, going through this whole Partygate and what have you, where would you, and I'm going to be asking you the same thing as well, you would have told Trump just to shut up and you would have lost that one straight out the gate. But what would you advise if you had a client in a similar situation as Boris? What would you be advising them?
Well, I think, first of all, the game's up on that. And if you look at his resignation statement, which is a fascinating read, actually, you'll realize that it wasn't really designed to achieve anything except for him to control the nature of his exit, jumping off the bow of the ship. I think it's the bow of the stern, whatever, the bow of the ship, rather than being forced to walk the plank.
Yes.
So it's not really something that would have necessitated legal advice, although I'm fascinated, Trisha, to see that he has definitely been paying attention to some of the celebrated court cases across the pond over in the US in the last couple of years, in which this press invented, but apparently legal principle, which I, as a criminal lawyer, have never heard about. And I assure you that's because it's something for the press, not because I don't know what I'm doing, of DARVO has become popularized. Remember that acronym? Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender.
Yes.
So, reading that resignation speech, and that's DARVO is actually quite effective in the court of public opinion, but not, I always advise my clients, if you're going to try to defend yourself, an economical denial is the way to go.
Because you're so right. Attack. It is very Trumpian, isn't it? You denigrate, you deny, and you always say there's a witch hunt. I mean, the words Trump used that too. There's a witch hunt, and you try to ignite the whole feeling of some conspiracy against you, because that fans up all the conspiracy theorists and muddies and clouds the water even more. It's vicious, but it's also, as you say, it's taken a leaf out of the Trump playbook.
It's interesting. I mean, obviously he's denied the allegations. He attacks the impartiality of the tribunal. Isn't that total Donald J. Trump? But
yes,
he also does
but one he selected. Absolutely. He's like with Trump with his Supreme Court. I'm going to choose them. Oh, no, they didn't do what I said. I hate you. Right. I mean...
Yeah, he also does something, actually, which I think is quite clever. Question is, does it work? And that's that he tries to link the motivation for these attacks that he says are taking place on him with, or conflate that with an attempt to A, get revenge for, and B, reverse the effects of Brexit. And I actually think that's why he's doing a couple of things there. He's probably pointing to something of an undercurrent that is going on. The Tory party is clean at clearing house. They're getting rid of Trump's allies. I think it's actually... I'm not a particular fan of Nadine Dorries, but at the same time, I think it's quite sad what's happened to her with her elevation or transfer to the House of Lords turning into just a straight resignation at short notice. Yeah. But I also think that there's an important comparison that you can draw with the Trump methodology as well. And that's what these people try to do, is tap into their core base. That's quite extreme. That's quite prone to the whole conspiracy theorist narrative. And I don't think that the idea of there being kind of political undercurrents to this assassination, and it is one, is completely naive. I just don't think it's as dramatic and as kind of existential and good versus evil as people like Trump and Boris Johnson suggest. What do we have? We have Boris Johnson, this kind of jaded cop who's hanging around in the last 10 or 15 years of his career, waiting to get his pension. As an MP, even though he's disgraced or certainly ended as a prime minister, maybe hoping that something will turn around late in his career. I just don't think it was ever very credible or realistic. His ability.
I was going to say, just on that point, I'm going to put my money on the fact that it won't be too long. There'll be a job opportunity somewhere. I still think that this resignation, apart from, as you say, jump before you're pushed, plus somewhere he'll have something lined up. He will have something lined up. I'm telling you.
When Ukraine wins the war, as they may well do, he might get a job over there. I have Ukrainian friends, and he is a national hero over there for the perceived leadership that he showed immediately in showing that nation support. I find it difficult to tell some of my friends that despite that, which I approve of, and I have, as I might have mentioned, I have some Ukrainian ancestry. I'm very sympathetic to all of that. He's actually, despite his heroic or apparently heroic actions in Ukraine, a bit of a clown as far as most people are concerned over here, which my Ukrainian friends find very difficult to believe.
And again, that happens a lot with Trump. There's certain parts of the population who just can't see anything else except what he gave them. So, we're talking about the legalities and what have you of all of this. And I want to move on now, because we're going to come back to we're going to be talking to somebody about Trump and the legalities over here. And we're going to be talking to Boris. And in fact, my question of the day is to people is, are they sick of hearing about this? Because the press seems, do you think that the press gives this, I know it is a momentous thing that happens, but do you think often with these things, and you touched upon it, that the press fans the flames of all of this? I mean, a lot of what these people in these situations do is playing to the gallery, playing to Fleet Street.
And the press and division sells newspapers. The press love Trump. The left-wing press in America love Trump. They've never had so much attention. They're commercial organizations for the most part who want to sell advertising. That means that they want these glued to the screen to find out what horrific thing Trump's car crash or attempts at saving America, make it great again, depending on your perspective, are going to lead.
And Boris and his honours list and how he went and what have you. Exactly, it sells newspapers.
Right. And you know what? I'm a lawyer, and I think that as far as the legal sector is concerned, certainly Trump, and to a lesser extent our own British Boris Trump, have to there's a lot of lawyers have made a lot of money out of all of that mischief, not least Brexit, because half the country's regulatory framework is being attempts are being made to rewritten. Legal sector's doing great out of it, out of this chaos. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. Or as they say in America, I do not approve this message.
Right, we're talking about the press, Prince Harry, because there's legals or all of that. We've got to be, I guess, you can guide me on how careful we've got to be. But Prince Harry has been in court all week, and I think it was probably a big shock to his system. It is for anybody to go into court, let alone a royal, and was spent a long time in the witness box. I didn't realise people would spend that amount of time. And when it comes to cases like this, he's suing, if people don't know, the Mirror Group. They've already apologised for one one misdemeanor, if you like. They've got a war chest. They've already paid out some £100 million, £100 million already that they've paid out in damages. This is for the phone hacking and gathering information by non-legal means. They've already paid out 100 million. And Prince Harry, it's not just about Prince Harry, because there are other people involved like Sherbourne Gulati and what have you. But where's the onus? Is the onus on the Prince Harrys and the Sherbourne Gulatis and a completely different case with the son, Hugh Grant and what have you? Is the onus on them to prove something, or is the onus on the newspapers to prove that they didn't do something?
This is fascinating, Trisha. And I sometimes think, as I've said before, you should be the lawyer, because this is actually the basis upon which Andrew Green Casey, the dynamite cross-examiner who's been putting Prince Harry through the ringer for this day and a half period on behalf of Mirror Group newspapers, this is how he's trying to run the case. What he's saying here is, you have asserted this. It's the civil rules. He who asserts must prove. You have asserted all of this took place, but you can't prove it with phone records. Harry says, and the others say, hang on a minute, you're bad character. You've already made settlements. You've already agreed this went on in other cases. That counts. The fact that the overwhelming suspicion of all of these stories coming out and all of it being so private means there must be something to it. And it's not up to me to prove how. The question Andrew Green asked, are you aware, excuse me, I'm reading here, are you aware of any evidence that gives any indication whatsoever as to the extent to which you were hacked, if at all? Very precise question.
The extent.
That's it. But he says, the prince says, no, that's part of the reason why I'm here, my lord, to the judge. But this is the error that Andrew Green is trying to, that he's trying on behalf of his client to get the judge to buy into, because it isn't for the claimant in civil law to prove exactly how something took place if the evidence still tends towards that conclusion. I'm reminded, right, I think, Trisha, of my law school days in the case of Eason versus London and North East Railway. The principle is res ipsa loquitur. You don't have to know in the railway crash exactly how it happened, merely that it happened and shouldn't have. And it's not up to Harry to prove all the details if the overwhelming suspicion grows to the extent that something having happened is undeniable.
Wow. Because, you know, that's one of the things that I looked at, and they don't just throw out, statements willy-nilly. The other thing that I'm really interested in all of this is that, and from a layperson's point of view, you mentioned the Mirror Group has a KC. Harry doesn't it? His name's I shouldn't go for a minute, but I've been reading so much about it. But Harry's lawyer isn't a QC, a KC. Why is that?
It's unusual, but it's happened in the past. David Sherbourne is the libel king. Think of gorgeous George Carman in the 1980s and the 1990s in his battles with David Mellor and Jeffrey Archer and Gillian Tailforth and all of those situations. Well, you know, and even representing Ken Dodd, what did he say? He said, not members of the jury, while some accountants are comedians, no comedians are accountants. Now, the Sherbourne is the top of the pops in this sector, and he's working in-house. His bona fides or standing in the market does not need to be given the moniker of King's Counsel, which is a kind of honorary title that confers some type of capability. And don't get me wrong, most of the top people are KCs, but even the great Michael Mansfield wasn't made QC for many years when he was already by practice the best criminal barrister in the country. In fact, I, having known him as a child, know of a story when when that he was told by through certain official channels unofficially that he would be made a QC over the dead body of the then Lord Chancellor. Well, in the end, he was made a QC, but it took a while, and it took longer than it did. And by then, every cab driver and every person watching the news,
everybody knew his name.
If you're in trouble, go for Mansfield.
Yes, and so Sherbourne is the Mansfield of the day as well.
It's interesting. Is in this sector, yes.
And he it's interesting as well. And we sort of circled all the way back to where we began, which is profile wise, and that's all part of it when you're in photographs. And in the old days, I suppose it was different. It was just the wig and the gown that made an impression. Now it's the walking into court for the lawyers. You guys the spotlight is very much on you. So not only now are you getting the money, you're getting the kudos and the fame as well.
Well, I don't use the word "you" to include me in all that. I'd rather, in my cases, be behind my client, presenting my client in the best way that I can, and making sure that my client's case is the star of the show, not his lawyer. I'll leave my moments of treading the boards to these half hours that you and I occasionally have on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, Trisha.
And very much enjoy them as well, Joseph. Thank you so much for talking to us. I know this is going to go on either with Boris or with Harry. There's always a legal eagle point of view, and Joseph is definitely the person to talk to.